with people in India, I can't remember where, but there was a Coca-Cola factory in their village and I didn't like it because it was like polluting the water and the soil and stuff. So they went up there and went in and said, can everyone leave because we're about to blow it up? So everyone left the building and they blew it up. Jobs are good and no Coca-Cola factory in their village. But, I mean, we don't blow things up around here. It's a bit different, I think. But we could metaphorically blow things up. Battle you can win. Choose a strategy and tactics that enable you to win, and really importantly is follow through. You can't just go. I think I'm quite self-contained and I make my own mind up. I have an autistic brother and he was bullied a lot, so I was basically street fighting bullies from the age of 7, and that sense of injustice has stayed with me. I don't actively ever belong to another group, but very often, but I'll go along and I'll join in, and I never tire of telling people I'm a non-affiliated domestic extremist. Almost like a very old-fashioned tea lady, like have a cup of tea, have some cake, and have a politician like not quite sure whether he should be calling the police because he's having chocolate cake rammed down his throat and being given tea. You know what I mean? You start playing with ideas of what is threatening.
Crumpets, everybody! Crumpets!
Oh, we have one. When I was in my 20s, I lived on an island off the coast of Ireland, so there's only 120 people on the island, and that included the children and the old folks and everyone out. So there weren't many of us active. So if somebody needed to get their hay in, everyone helped. And then you're all in their house having a, you know, some cider, some bread and cheese afterwards. Or if somebody needed their fencing done, you need more than one person to do fencing. So you're always helping each other. And we've lost that cooperation together. Having a baby, it does focus your mind. You start looking much further ahead than either a politician does or even an individual. So it mattered the sort of world that they grow up into. It's not a case of keeping them safe as a baby. You want to keep the world safe for them. You want the water to be good, the air to be good, and you know, you don't want them to be polluted. And maybe that's an oversensitivity. So it was in my mind, and by 2000 I was a journalist, so I was writing about, by 2000 I was writing about climate change. So I'd heard about it in 97, was writing about it by 2000, and it just struck me that even though the politicians had it in their manifestos, they weren't actually taking it very seriously, and most policies looked towards the next election. So you might get elected and then you could do what you liked for a year, and then you had to rein it back in and give people what they wanted before the next election. Otherwise they wouldn't vote for you, and then you couldn't do the good things. And I found that very disconcerting. Suddenly we were having an incinerator built in my community, and it was like, well, that can't be right, because that's an awful lot of CO2 emissions. Instead of burning plastic, you should bury it in the ground in a way and just like sequester all that extra carbon. When the incinerator decision went through at East Sussex County Council, I left the meeting. I was very frank, incredibly rude to the county councillors, and I was chair of the district council at the time. So I just said, like, I think we have followed the due political process to the last. Now is the time for direct action. And off I stormed, and I had no idea how to take direct action. The county council, they had this land, and for 2 years people have been asking, can we have it for allotments, because it's just sitting there, nothing's happening to it. And they, no. So we worked out that there was a royal wedding coming up or something. So if we went unoccupied, it would have taken weeks to get us off, by which time we'd be established. And we teamed up with the climate campus, so we had lots of young people, a lot of them had come through the student occupations. Everyone had infrared head torches, and we had tripods, and like, it was all like, because I live in a community, it was people who had never taken direct action before driving the lorries with the tripods on, because they were cool people that wouldn't lose their nerves, because young activists can't drive, so they can't drive big trucks. So it was a complete cross section, and we put all these marquees up overnight. We were there for 24 hours before the security guards even noticed we were on the back lawns of the county council. We went unoccupied for 4 months, and we transformed it into a garden. So it was amazing. So every day I'd get up, make tea, and then we'd garden. And I had a gardening club for the year 9s, and I had homeless people growing their own vegetables. And people came and shared other ideas. Other groups came and used the space that we'd taken for their meetings. And I'm very, very keen on that. Lots of people working together. I don't believe in sort of exclusive groups. Diversity is our strength. The fact that diversity is being crushed out of society actually gives me the strength to think how important it is that we maintain that, so people with different resources available, different experience, different age, all those people coming together is what makes an action strong, or a movement strong. The biggest obstacle is probably people knowing that positive change is needed, or that they can feel empowered. We have loads of examples of things, people in other countries giving it large, and funnily enough, like here in Blighty, everyone just puts up with it. People who care passionately, who are thinking, will realise that I've signed the petition, I've phoned my MP, I've stood outside my MP's office, I've waved a placard in the high street, and nothing's happened. Where do we go next? So those people are looking to move on. So it's just a case of trust build up, and I think people need to get their heads around the fact there isn't some amazing group. Not all the time, but I've been to meetings where I am the only person that turns up, and all you can do at that meeting is make 3 promises to yourself as to how many people you'd like to come to the next meeting and how you'd let that happen. And when 2 of you turn up at a meeting, then you're fine, then you just work out how to get more people. And I've built stuff up that from 2 of us at a meeting going, holy moly, we really got to do something here. And then, months later, there's hundreds of you running down the hill, or whatever. So, yeah, it can seem complicated and exclusive, but I don't think it just depends whether you want to do a pixie action, you want to do something and run away. You might want to go and, I think graffiti is very, very powerful. For me, like, what outcome you want from an action very much influences how you go about it. The suffragettes, when they were already doing meetings and stuff, like, and they were hoping that the left were going to sort out votes for women, and a lot of the early women suffragists were married to male politicians, and a couple of women thought that was a really bad idea and that they would go and disrupt a meeting, a Liberal meeting, and they were arrested and duffed up, and they were fined for interrupting a meeting. Like, God, like in those days, if you heckled at a meeting, that was such bad form, especially a woman, and it was like, an excuse was given, like, how could women possibly be given the responsibility of voting when they're not even prepared to shut up at a meeting? And they got fined, and they refused to pay their fines, and then they went to prison for the non-payment of fines, and that launched the whole kind of suffragette thing of going to prison and using that to advertise that women had no votes, to get the story in the newspaper. Christabel Pankhurst is in Holloway today because she did this, and it was their way of getting it in the papers. I think an action needs a specific aim. If it's direct action, you need to be stopping something. So if you haven't stopped something, you probably haven't succeeded. Mm. It works when everyone cooperates and works as a team. Hierarchies got us into this mess. Hierarchies will not get us out. And you can't just impose a non-hierarchy. You have to grow a non-hierarchy. There is no simple solution. I think that's why I keep going back to what you organise in your local community, make your community good, and the people in it strong, with access to good food and good water. And I think that is basically all you can do long term. But you do need to go out and smash and express anger and get some things changed. Pick your battles. Pick a battle that you can win. You can't fight climate change, but you can fight for better public transport in your hometown, or more access to food growing spaces. That will mitigate climate change without spending a lot of money, and it will actually piss off the local authorities. So that's nearly a win-win. When we took on our local council over land use, we won that. So you can make a difference. That's made a big difference to a lot of people's lives in my local community. sure it's not as simple as sharing the harvest, but I'm sure I'm not far off.